everybody, welcome to Fiddlesticks and Stitches. I'm Fiddle. Today's project is Cold Porcelain Clay Doll, Part 3, Knees, Toes, and Elbows. The list of materials will always be on my Patreon, and I'll always have the link in the description. Okay, grab your clay, it's time to get started. We're going to make the arms first because we don't need a core or a center stabilizer or anything. But all you really need to do is roll out snakes of clay, cut them to length, like I'm doing here. I went ahead and rolled both of my arms out at the same time. Depending on your clay, you may want to hold off on that if it's really dry. If it's humid, it should be okay for you to leave it sit there for a minute. Okay, after you get them cut to length, you're going to want to take one end and round it over. This is going to be the shoulder. Moving down the arm, we're going to make it just a smidge thinner than what it is up at the shoulder to show that there is a gradation of size there. You can put a curve or a bend in the arm if you want here, or you can just make that little indent and keep on going straight. I decided to put a bend in my arm. Now moving down to the hand, you're going to make an even stronger gradation than before. To make the fingers, I used my thread spool as a clay tool and used it to flatten them out. To make the hands simpler, you can just cut a thumb instead of each individual finger. To do this, I just cut a triangle out of this side of the hand where the thumb should be, and used my tool to make that separation smoother than just a simple cut to give the fingers a rounded edge. After cutting the thumb, go over your arm one more time, make sure that it's shaped proportionately. Use your guide, it comes in really handy here. Once you have your arm the way you want it, you need to poke a hole up towards the shoulder so that we can string our body together. To do this, I used a toothpick. For even one set of arms, I actually waited until after the arm had dried and used a drill. It worked great for me. You can do it at your own risk. I really think it honestly depends on your clay on how it will react. If it's all cracked and everything, I would not advise using any type of power tools on it. But if you're pretty solid and have your air bubbles out, then you should be okay. And repeat the same exact process for the other arm. And here's a shot of what mine look like after. There are two different ways you can make the legs. You can make them like we did the arms where you don't have a core, or you can make it where you do use it. I found it easier if I was going to be bending the legs to use the dowel, and for a straight leg it's really not necessary. The first cut we're going to make in our dowel is going to be from our hip to the knee. You'll want to cut this at an angle so that way your leg will be bent. For the bottom half of your leg, you're going to take the end of the dowel where you cut and just turn it slightly until you have the bend in the knee where you want it. Cut your stick off at the heel, and we are ready for the next part. Okay, it's time to pull out the power tools if you have them. I used both a drill and a Dremel for getting that dip in the hip, and the drill to do the holes for the stringing later. After having fun with power tools, you should have something like this right here, and it is time for tape. Be mindful in which direction your hip dip is going when you're putting your tape on, or you might end up with a crooked leg. One of my dolls does have a crooked leg. Alright, let's give these wood bones some skin. Grab your clay. We're going to apply the clay the same way that we did in the torso video, where you just take pinches of clay and attach it to it instead of wrapping the whole thing up like I did here. You'll want to leave the inside portion that's going to be touching the body wood, so that way if any air is trapped down further along the leg, it can just come out the top. Also, I figured that the clay would rub away pretty quick right there at that joint, so I figured it best just to leave it. Just like with the arms, you want to start at the hip and work your way down to the foot. Put a slight gradation from the hip to the knee to signify that little bit of an angle that's there. Okay, next I'm going to show you an example of what not to do. This is because as you're pushing together with your hands, you're creating pockets in the leg and make it a lot harder on you. You really have to work those air bubbles out if you do that. You could use a stick pin to poke holes if you do get air pockets that you can fill, because you will be able to fill them moving around next to the wood if you do have any. But you can take a straight pin and pop those bubbles and then smooth over your pin mark. The best way to get it in shape is just to lightly squeeze and turn and constantly check your angles as you're squeezing. This is an aftershot of what you should have so far from the past 3 tutorials. If you like what you've seen, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. It helps me out a lot. And always don't forget to stop by Patreon. There's always some pretty interesting things posted there, and for the most part, they will be free. I will be putting out a video in the middle of this week for the stringing of the body, so don't forget to check that out. Thanks for watching and see you next time.